What we have is a mess, but we've got to put together a temporary power service, power pole, to build the house. They're getting ready to land the poles. There's 8 poles coming down the driveway. And we've got to land a temporary pole here for them to pull over to and put a plug in for us to do construction with. So come along with me today as we try to build this pole as much up to code as possible. So for the new house, we've got to have a temporary power service. So first thing we're going to do is take this meter base and open it up. So this is where the power board will actually come in and hook up to. I laid this stuff out yesterday. What I like to do is get this sucker laid out. Here. And of course, when I left the house, I forgot my measuring tape, so I bought one. This is what any good contractor does. Forget something and they have 800 of them. Get that out of the way. So the way I like to draw mine out is it's got to be 5.5 foot off the ground, and then the meter base, or the meter, see, this is going to be tough because I'm going to have to try to get my language together here for you all. And language is my weak suit. So the pole's got to be 4 foot in the ground. And then the meter face, so the part that the actual power board comes out and puts on the pole, is supposed to be 5 foot 6 inches off the ground. And then the entire head is supposed to be 12 foot. So that gets you exactly 12 feet right there. So what we'll do is we'll take this guy out and we'll lay it up here like so. So the meter face and these covers. So it comes with a couple covers. Comes with emergency disconnect. We'll throw that under. Instructions. Nobody actually needs those. Let me get a screwdriver. So I like to try to put this stuff together on the ground. It just seems to me that it's always easier to stand it up all together. So this is a big deal too, is not losing everything. So these come in and they have, let me take this off. So they come like this. So I just took this panel off and this off. Inside you see there's a slotted hole here and some holes here. And so you're supposed to use lag bolts to attach this to the post. So what we'll do is we'll get that meter head. $5'6". So what I'm doing is that, if I can find it, is that hole that's on the inside. I'm putting it in there on that mark that I made at 5'6". It's not dead on, but it's extremely close. It's close enough. It'll get you close enough that they'll pass it. And remember, this is just a temporary pole. From the actual service mount back here in the back to the house, I will be going underground. So on the back side of this is you have 3 knockouts. What I like to do is in the center knockout is I try my best to get it centered to some extent, but I don't do it perfect because in the back of your panel there's some knockouts, and I like to offset it just a hair so that if I need to use this back knockout for something, I can, and it doesn't put it in a way that you can't get it out and have to put your box cockeyed. Nobody likes a cockeyed box. So I'm using a 1/2 inch lag bolt or lag screw. And I don't put it in there as tight as it will go. But I snug it down and it won't go anywhere now. Don't you know? Okay. Now I need to get this top one. And then you've got to put together one of these. It's a weather head. So you run your cable up and then you stub your cable out. And I'll stub my cable out with my wire around 12 inches. So you got to have 12 foot off the ground to the top of your weather head. This piece up here is the weather head. And then now I need to cut it. I hope the wind's not too bad. This stuff cuts. This is a schedule 80 and it has to be schedule 80. A 2-inch schedule 80 is what's required. And you can cut it with just a handsaw, a hacksaw, really any kind of saw that you can get your hands on. Jigsaw, sawzall, skill saw, table saw, miter saw. Kind of reminds me of like Forrest Gump. Shrimp scampi, buttered shrimp, shrimp bread, corn shrimp. Probably one of my favorite movies. So here's that. I'll put that back over here. So it's just a cheap Craftsman saw. I keep this just a little plumbing saw that I have. Smooth everything out. So the way that you attach these is that you'll lay this up here. I kind of have a little bit of an offset there, but that sucker will mount on with this plate that you buy, if I can find it. here. So these plates come RTA, ready to assemble. But no, these plates come with a little bit of a kick. See how it's a little bit further back from here to there? From here to there, that'll set, so they'll keep that conduit directly on the back side of your post. And then you'll need one of these couplings. That's what attaches onto the end of your PVC. And then this will thread on. And it bottoms out on the inside, which actually gives you a liquid tight. It's supposed to. Anyways, liquid tight fit. So the way I do mine is I attach it here. And I go ahead and get all this. I'll take all this cover off, lay it to the side, because you'll have to actually land it inside, and I'll bring you over and show you when I actually go to land it. So I'll take my weather head off, and I'll get my cable ready. And so my weather head, my top part of the pecker head, the part that keeps on top that keeps the rain out, around 6 foot. So 12 foot off the ground to the top. So I will go ahead and run this up. Anything down towards the bottom. And so what I'll do is get some of this PVC, this cement. I'm gonna have to have dang channel locks. See, this stuff's really tight, but if you'll just grab you something with a sharp edge, if you ain't got channel locks would be better. But just turn it, it'll turn. It comes out and it's this gray conduit seal. So don't get it on any plastic that you don't want sealed. And what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put this bolt, lag screw, lag bolt, wherever it's at. Where you at? There you are. Go ahead and throw this in. There's a science to all this. And if you want to know it, ask somebody else, because I don't know it all. I don't know any of it really. But you'll take this, and I always mount it first. and put your screw in. Take your nut driver, drill, whatever. It ain't. You really don't have to have a lot of tools for this. Need you a nut driver or a multi-tool. And all this stuff is kind of lipped so that it makes it where water can't really run up and in. Like even your screw holes are lipped. But make sure when you get these mounts, if you buy a GE meter box, get you a GE 2-inch mount. Remember too, we're just building a temporary box. This is a temporary meter box. Tighten all that down and throw this back. Go ahead. Use some of your muscles and bring this in. And the reason I don't put my weather head on, because I can stick it. I'm gonna actually bring you. Let me go ahead and bring you down here. Interrupted myself. So what I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself is I'll take this and leave this kind of loose, but I don't put that weather head on until I get all that done. That way I can kind of pull it around. So you take some of this glue and you can leave it loose, put it neatly, and you'll take a lot of the dirt and debris off. I turn my riding out, but this is why I don't put my weather head on. But in these panels, you've got 2 solids, and then you've got a striped. And the striped is your ground. It's also your smaller diameter than your other ones. So, try to get you in frame. So you'll try to stick it all the way through, and you want that basically on the back side of this, and so you can actually take these all the way out if you can't manhandle it in. But personally, I like a little bit of a challenge. But see how that sticks through just enough to grab. That's plenty. And the other big thing is too, when you put this in, make sure that your screw, this Allen head, this deal, is not laying on top of your insulation. What that will actually do is create a loose connection, and over time it might catch fire, at least get really extremely hot. So that's how you do that. So let's see if I can video on this other end on how to put the weather head on. But in this, it looks like there's 3 holes. That's where you'll actually put your wires through. And this pops right out. So what I do is I'll get some of this cement. So anyways, y'all didn't see any of that. My dad called. But basically I put this in, and what I do is I put the ground in the middle, then I'll put these two at the top. So you got these. So they're just 2-inch conduit 2-hole straps. You put them on. It's overkill. I think it's supposed to be like every 4 feet or something. Don't quote me on that. Told you we was going to try to do it as close to code as we could. There's a lot of leeway there with me. So what I use is I like to use high quality wood screws, 3 inches long. Or lag screws. That's what you're actually supposed to use, lag bolts. But about every time I've ever put a lag bolt in these plastic ones, they break. It breaks them off. So what I use, and I start at the top, I use cabinet screws, and I try to get it as centered as possible. 3 inches. That's what I go. 3-inch screws. Make sure everything's straight and snug it up. So let me show you what we've got here on the top side. So you got a weatherhead, ground coming out the middle, strapped, attached, and landed. And see how I was talking about the insulation? Just make sure your insulation is not landed under there. And then the way these things work is you've got your ground bus bar, and then you've got this, and this ties your 2 legs coming in off of your power lines on your overhead. That ties into your breaker. And then below you'll have this, and this is your main part where you'll put one of these GE breakers. And so you just throw this in. Let's see if I can get this. You throw this in and see how that just snaps in. So anyways, I changed the angle up a little bit. Go up here on this upper side. Maybe see it a little bit better. So anyways, my mark is down here for the 4 foot. It's got to go in the ground. So then you could either go center knockout here, which I don't like using my big knockouts because of in case I have to use this for something else. There's a small knockout. And when I say knockout, that's what they are. Take it, put it in there, and they kind of flap up, and then they pull out. They're just like little quarters. So what I've got are these fittings, and so you have this, and then you have these lock rings. And so this fitting will go in here, and your lock ring will go on the inside. And these lock rings are, I don't know if you can see this, but they're a little bit like a conical shape, but they've got teeth. And then as you tighten down, it will tighten down. So you can either put your plug on the side, run this out kind of 90 degree over, or you put it on the front. I'm gonna put it on the side in case I ever have to use this bigger one for something else. Anyways, it's not super pretty. Like I said, it's a temporary power pole. And we'll attach it. And that gets your power, or it gets your GFCIs. What you've got, you just get your line, you load. So if you want to run to another outlet, like if you're on daisy chain, you would run it to your load. On your line, you put your hot where it says hot, and your white where it says white, or your neutral. Also, the hot normally is a black or a dark colored, and the neutral's a lighter color. Normally. But don't make that. First. So on this bottom, so on the back of these, you've got a ground, and like I said, a light color, a line side and a low side. So your ground, by code, your ground needs to be up. This ground plane. The reason why is if something falls behind it, hits that ground and not one of your hot and neutrals, shorts it out. So your line side up, load side down, and then your white, and then your hot. So I'll hook it up and I'll show it to you. Okay, so there it is in, everything's hooked up. And these little slots, they just slide up over your screws, and then you tighten it all together. And then once we get power on it, that will energize. It's also got a tamper-proof deal there. And then these things are in-use boxes. So these pieces here on the bottom will come in and out, whichever way you want to put your extension cord in. So that's how these boxes work. Now I'll go up here and I'll show you the breaker. So we've got our formate sticking up. We'll run a neutral bus and a ground bus, and then we'll run our hot off the bottom of the breaker. The breaker stabs in here on the connectors coming down. All this is connected through the top like we had it. So like I said, you just connect it here. Just make sure you connect on the right bus bar. So you see how this bus bar is connected onto all of your hot stabs. These are your hot stabs. This is where the top of the breaker goes. This doesn't do nothing, so this isn't hot. See how it all ties in here? And then the one back behind it is your ground and your neutral bus bar. And then just kind of bend them into place. It's not perfect, but it's exactly right. And then on the bottom, there's just one connector. You screw it in, that's where your hot goes. That's where your line side goes. So that's it. This, your ground rod, I'll bring the backhoe down and I'll shove it down in the ground. Then you'll just take your ground that's connected there, and then you take it and you run it out the back and you staple it to it. Bring it up here. And the ground just got extremely hard, so I'll bring the backhoe, push it down, and then you have these connectors here. The ground rod goes into, and that goes in. You tighten it up, and you have got a full temporary service pole ready. Temporary pole, stakes is where they'll pull from. Pull to here, bracing headed towards the stake to keep it steady. There's your box and my permit box on the back. Breaker back in, breaker's off. Oh yeah, by the way, it's up there at the top. You've got to have an eye bolt or something for them to pull their cable over to. There's the slab. Just one more look around. View. That's why we bought the property.